Another Bright Spot podcast.
Another bright
Another
spot.
bright spot.
Another bright spot.
Another Bright Spot.
Another bright spot. Another bright spot.
Another bright spot podcast.
Hi, I'm Neale Mile. Welcome to another episode of Another Bright Spot podcast. Today, my guest is Matt Relf, local politician, engineering background, owner and founder of Pack Pixels. Matt, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Excellent. I really want to get into, because I think the audience will be interested in your journey with Pack Pixels, Kickstarter campaign, marketing, sales, the whole journey, the trials, tribulations, the successes. I know from the website that's still up, you're very connected to, very passionate about. It was very much a passion project. But you're an engineer at heart. We're an engineering business. What's your origin story? Where did that passion come from?
So, I'm a computer scientist by training. I've got a degree in that from University of Warwick. Went into software development and then on into project management and IT management. And then went into the world of freelance contracting and going around the place. And it was while I was frequently out on client sites working that I was becoming frustrated of going from my multi-monitor base setup at home down to a single laptop screen. And that's where I was okay, I need more monitors to take out with me. Had a look at the market for portable monitors, found them to be either low resolution and or the most clunky mounting systems you could see, with big metal plates needing to be permanently stuck to your laptop and things like that. Yeah. So
I suppose the other option is just having a second monitor with a stand and plug in, and not very practical, right?
While I was in this sort of phase, that's exactly what I did. Is I literally just lugged a massive monitor with me, and I then stumbled across a website where somebody had posted about being able to connect an iPad screen directly to a DisplayPort cable. Okay. And that was the point where I went, because electronics is not my background, software is my background.
Sure.
And when I saw that actually the electronic side of things could be quite solvable, that's when it piqued my interest to then start playing with, okay, can I come up with a better way of mounting?
Okay.
And I've always had an interest in physical design. I originally wanted to be an architect, was my original course.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
And so I've been around CAD for a long time playing with things.
Yeah, orbiting around CAD.
Yeah. And I'm a massive Lego nerd, always been, and always have, and so I like making things as well. So
you're in the good place for the Lego.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, can I design something that would be a better mounting system? And so I came up with the mounting system that was Pack Pixels, and managed to get that patented. But also alongside all of that, worked on the actual case design and everything else for Pack Pixels. And I was like, well, I think there's a market here for this.
Sure.
And that's then what led me down in the path of crowdfunding, which was relatively new at the time. And I went down the path with Kickstarter, and certainly found that a very interesting process.
Okay, so what was the interest? What was interesting about it?
Well, it's a fantastic format, crowdfunding, and because it's both market research as to what the market is out there, and also a mechanism for raising funding.
Yeah, I suppose you can test the market, you can announce something and see what the interest is, and
exactly that. So it's great from that standpoint. But equally, it's challenging from the standpoint of the buyer's mentality, because it's definitely the case that a lot of people that peruse crowdfunding platforms, certainly when I was doing both of my campaigns.
It was about 2014.
That there wasn't perhaps the full understanding of what crowdfunding meant for the person putting money in.
Okay.
Because there are those who fully understand it as you are taking a risk with your money and having a punt at something, and in return for that, you potentially get something that is at lower than final market rate.
Sure.
And you also get the excitement of being on that journey with the creator.
More like an investment than a guaranteed thing. So you invest in some shares, they may go up, they may go down. Sure.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
But it's not exactly a share.
It's not.
The only outcome you get is the potential finished product.
Yeah. And that's important, potential finished product.
Exactly that.
Okay.
And yet there are a good number of people who treat it as a cheap e-commerce platform.
Right. So I've invested, I'm going to get something.
Yes.
Is the mentality.
And there is a real sort of sense of entitlement of, I'm not happy with the delays that inevitably hit projects, or if things go wrong or change, or, there's a real vehement backlash that you can get. But the really interesting thing I found was when I did my initial Kickstarter launch, I actually had to do two. Because I did a Kickstarter launch where I'd done all my maths of figuring out what I needed to do to get to a finished product to market without any further forms of investment, this being the main form of investment. And that, therefore, had a fairly high target to hit.
Of course.
And it didn't hit that.
Especially for a first one as well, an unknown source.
And what you find, and I found this when I did my sort of further reading up and research on this and then had a second attempt, is actually there are a lot of people who are sat looking with interest but don't necessarily say, okay, I'm pledging to that.
Right.
Even though if you fail to hit your target, you don't get charged. That's how crowdfunding works.
Yeah.
But they sit there still waiting until it's a certainty.
Right, okay.
And so actually by lowering your target on crowdfunding and getting to that faster can be helpful in two ways. One, in terms of the platform's algorithm of saying, this is hot, this has hit its target, I will therefore promote this more.
Yeah, yeah.
And also that mentality of people going, well, it's a sure thing.
Yeah, you guarantee they've hit the target, you're definitely going to.
So I'll jump on that. And so actually, by setting a lower target, you can end up with more money in the end.
Yeah.
But it's a delicate balance, because if you only just hit that target and it's not the amount you actually need, then you've got a problem.
Calculated risk, I suppose, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So on that, in the marketing and sales side, how did you go about it? Did you do any sort of extra promotion around it? Did you purely use the Kickstarter platform? How did you present yourself? Was there a piece around that you had to consider?
Well, as you've quite correctly identified, I'm an engineer by heart, and so the whole sort of marketing side of things is not my bag, and I definitely felt that, and it was a very steep learning curve of how to get out there more, and I was pretty successful in terms of getting coverage in various tech blogs, and even it ended up in was it Wired magazine and stuff as well.
Fantastic.
So it was pretty successful in terms of getting that out there, but entirely by luck rather than by skill and judgment. And certainly, if people are wanting to go down this path, I would highly recommend really finding somebody who's got experience and good marketing instincts to assist you. Because the other thing is, when you do start down this path, you get bombarded by a lot of platforms claiming, oh, sign up to us and we'll take a percentage of what you get, or all of these things.
Yeah.
And we'll get you much greater coverage.
Yeah. And that could be tempting as well, especially if marketing sales isn't your thing. You're thinking percentage, okay, maybe, but yeah.
And again, a lot of research needed around that. I batted a lot of that away because there's definitely a lot of snake oil salespeople in there.
Yeah, I'd well imagine. So marketing sales aside, you said you're more a technical background, but software, what were the challenges in actually sort of, building the physical design elements?
Yeah, I mean, again, while I'd been able to create a design of a mounting system that allowed you to easily clip it onto any laptop, any size, and you could hang the screen in portrait and landscape, and it was really natty, very happy with all of that. And I'd invested in a second-hand 3D printer back at the time when, 3D printers needed a lot of cajoling to actually give you any kind of output. So to actually physically prototype this, I equally recognised that I needed to get this ready for injection moulding and factory-ready production, and also something that didn't look quite so angular as to what I was playing around with. And so again,
everyone likes soft, smooth edges.
Yeah.
And thank you, Apple.
So I found a local product design company. I was recommended to them by another contact I'd had called Salsus Design, who are phenomenal. They're brilliant. And they then took my design and concept, and we worked really closely. It wasn't a case of hand it over. It was really nice to find a company that was very happy for us to just literally sit together and thrash it out.
But you feel valued then, don't you, as well? I mean, not to give Ignis too much of a plug-in, but, you know, it's very much, if a company is adding value to what you're doing and your opinions are validated and appreciated, and it's just really nice to work in a team rather than, well, you're clearly an idiot, this is the best way to do it. It never goes down well. So it's great that you found them.
Yeah. And they got it all ready for injection molding, and it was then a case of, okay, I've got the Kickstarter money, I've got the designs all ready, I've got obviously the PCB designs all sorted out. Who's then actually going to manufacture this? And that's when I was really keen to try and manufacture things in the UK.
Of course, yeah.
And
lots of benefits, local suppliers,
and
control.
I actually, you know,
good manufacturing.
Yeah, and I hadn't realised that actually around the Ashfield, Mansfield area, there is quite a lot of injection moulding companies there. And so I put together a detailed tender pack of exactly what I was after and shipped that to 2 companies I'd been and visited and talked to about the project. But also to another company that had been recommended to me that proxy things to China on your behalf. And I was really disappointed with the results I got back from that process, because within 2 days, the proxy from China, the China engineers had looked at my designs, gone in depth, had then come back with a detailed report of how the design could be tweaked to just make it slightly easier to get the results I wanted, not big changes, and a full quote. One of the other companies, despite me trying to ring and email numerous times, never came back to me. The other one I rang after a week and said, how are you getting on with the quote? And they said, oh, we weren't sure whether you were serious or not. Yeah, I've sent you a detailed tender pack here. Yeah. This isn't sort of a back of fag packet idea.
No, this is thought through. This is genuine inquiry. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
I want you to be a part of this, and nothing met.
Yeah, and so they then said, oh, okay, we'll put together. And they then came back eventually with a quote. Yeah. But it was nowhere near as detailed. It was just literally a 1-page quote where they fully said, we're going to get the tooling made in China. And then we'll ship it across an injection mould over here.
Right.
But the tooling cost was, I think, £30,000 more expensive. You know, well, if it's going to be made in China anyway,
then why would you have
the per unit cost is going to be cheaper in China as well. It was kind of frustratingly a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. Yeah. And but the first batch, rather than being assembled in China, were assembled on my dining room table.
Right. Yeah.
Which was a fun process of lots of screws and lots of friends and relatives dragged in. Yeah. And
but they love that.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I'm sure that it must have been fun, exciting, because you've got your kit. I mean, all jokes aside, it's a passion project. You know, you've got family and friends involved. It must have been an exciting time.
It really was, and seeing the parcels packaged up and being collected by DHL and sent off, and then the feedback coming back of people really very positive about what they'd received. Because I'm very much a case of I want to do it right. I'm not trying to just make a quick buck here, and so I even now, and it's really heartwarming. You know, units that I shipped 10 years ago. Yeah. I'm still getting emails from people saying I'm still using it, and lovely. I still love it.
So to go back just to Chinese manufacturing, because I had a bit of an eye-opener. My first job was working in an art and crafts company, and my experience of Chinese manufacturing prior to being a grown-up in the real world was cheap, tap, naff sort of thing. But what we did was we used to sell crayons, paints, and pencils, and we'd have our own branded stuff. And we'd go send our purchasing guy over to China, and he would take, you know, the quality sort of materials that we sold, and they'd be like, look, we want our own branded stuff. And they'd be great, well, we can make it like that. We can do it 1 grade down. We can do it 2 grades down. They'd bring it back to our product testers. And the high grade stuff was better than the stuff that we were getting in from, like, there was a company called Bunzel, which I think was in the Netherlands or certainly Scandinavian countries, the quality pencils. But if you go to Chinese manufacturing, you say, we want this, they will deliver. The reason why it's associated with cheaper NAF stuff is because we pay for cheaper NAF stuff when it comes through.
Yeah.
But if you source out there, the quality can be absolutely
yeah.
fantastic.
We like to think of the UK as being a step above everywhere else for engineering, and it is absolutely the case that we have an incredible talent here and an incredible track record here. But that's not unique necessarily. No. And as you say, you can go and get that elsewhere. And it's one of the things that I'm really keen, and one of the things I'm work on in my local politics side of things, is trying to get local businesses to understand you're really good, but you also need to have the hunger to deliver,
be competitive,
and be competitive.
Yeah,
and I'm working on various things to try and support that. I'm project chair of the automated distribution and manufacturing centre that we're going to be building, which is about bringing and exposing businesses across the East Midlands to better technologies for, okay, how can you free up people from the mundane tasks to get on with the hunger tasks, the creative tasks, the business growth tasks as well. Bring
out those USPs that are really going to make you stand out from everyone else.
Because there's absolutely no reason why I shouldn't be able to get pack pixels made in the UK.
No.
We have the skills here.
Yeah.
And I think certainly since I started the pack pixels journey, you can see various world events that have disrupted supply chain.
We had a lot of problems over COVID, supply shortages. Yeah. One of the big problems that we had it wasn't a problem for us. It was a joy for us because we had to help our customers and clients. But all of a sudden, they had a device that had an FPGA or sort of chips or whatever that they were used to paying 50p a unit. All of a sudden, they were going up to £10 a unit, and that's just cost prohibitive. So it's a case of innovating, finding alternate, But then, of course, software reprogrammed from the start. But it's better in the long run for them to sort of do that.
And so I think there is real merit of, okay, how do we build up more of our local supply chain and more of our local ability?
Sure.
And part of that is around investment and technology, but also, as I say, I think part of that is around a focus on attitude of how we tackle and consider ourselves in that world market.
Absolutely. Do you think, when it comes to the UK, I always think we innovate and we do that really, really well. Is it the manufacturing side that let it down? Is it the cost of labour, do you think? It's
a lot of things. I think definitely labour. I definitely think we need to be far more aggressive in our investment of new technologies. I think, historically we've had a reticence to engage with mechanisation or automation or whatever the latest term is for, okay, how do we free up people from a mundane task to do something better?
Is that a societal thing, do you think? Or
and I could go down a whole rabbit hole on discussing that one. But I also think it is around how we tackle skills in the UK. I have a big issue with how we teach in schools at the minute. I think there is far too much focus on cramming kids full of things to remember.
Rather to pass exams, to facts and figures, how many wives Henry VIII had.
Exactly. Rather than, in my first year of university, I can remember distinctly on the software engineering module, a brilliant thing where they said, we are not going to teach you a programming language. We're going to teach you how to learn a programming language.
Okay.
And it sounds fairly innocent switch, but it's critical because actually throughout my career, I'm not trying to remember Pascal off the top of my head. No. I am trying to go, okay, what's the latest technology? What's the latest approach? And how do I take that knowledge and then apply it to the task at hand?
Sure.
And that for me is a far more important skill to be teaching people because that's far more about innovation and adoption of new that I think is what's holding us back as a nation at the moment.
Well, it takes you to the position where you can actually approach any language, any task, and you can just go ahead with it. So if on that, lessons learned from Pack Pixels, if you had your time again, top tips, what are the key things that you would change, do things differently down the...
I would definitely try and build more of a skilled team around me rather than trying to be maverick and doing everything on my own, because definitely found limits to my knowledge and also just sheer capacity. So definitely a team is a helpful thing to have around you. Far as much research as you can do on things that you are very much outside of your comfort zone on, the better. Because it's far too easy to go, well, I know how to do that, so I'll spend my time on that. And actually, that's not where you should be spending your time.
No. You always want to do the things that you enjoy and that you're good at, and
but also, if you can, for any of these sorts of projects, try and find some other good financial backer, because crowdfunding is brilliant, but unless you get a really viral hit success, you're probably going to have to be pitching it at a level where you can get interest, but it might not be the full amount that you need.
In the end, was it? And I know you wrap things up, and on the website you sold the rights and stuff. Was it just not profitable? Was it taking too much time? What was the final nail in the coffin?
The COVID was the nail in the coffin, basically, because I launched the second generation of Pack Pixels, with the Pack Pixels 4K and the Pack Pixels Go, which we crowdfunded for, and there were two issues with that. One, I hadn't realised that hidden away in the DisplayPort specifications was a tiny little change, which meant that the approach I'd taken with the original Pack Pixels could not be replicated in the new ones. And that was problematic because, unfortunately, only about 50% of laptop manufacturers strictly enforced the change in the specification.
Right, okay.
And unfortunately, every laptop that we were testing on were in the ones where it hadn't been implemented. And so I'd gone well down a development path and then found a dead end. But also then COVID hit just at a time where I really could have been doing with going over to China and sitting down with engineers over there to sort out that diverted path.
COVID would certainly make that trip difficult.
And that then led to some dead ends with suppliers, and fundamentally the money ran out. And so at a time where, unfortunately, trying to go out and rustle up more finance and everything else was just a nightmare. And so I'd already been working with a company that I'd identified was infringing my patent. And so we'd already set up a licensing deal for them. And so I approached them and said, would you be interested in actually buying it? And so that's the path I went.
Sad goodbye?
Very. But
still, what an achievement.
Incredibly proud of what I achieved. While it's sad to say goodbye, it equally was quite a weight off the shoulders in terms of...
I can imagine.
Okay. Let's move on to the next.
I mean, you're incredibly proud of it, and you still have people contact you now. So obviously a great product that people still love. And what's the phrase? Better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. Out of those people who still remain in contact, and any Pack Pixel customer that you ever had, what's the wackiest, most remote, bizarre place that people have used it?
Oh, in terms of, I've got some sort of nice hilltop, mountaintop photos that people have sent through, but I can also remember I was really pleased I selected DHL as a supply chain, because I remember when I was looking around at the time for who to go with, I happened to be seeing a thing about North Korea, and there was a wide shot of a square in Pyongyang, and I suddenly saw a DHL van driving along the back, and I was like, okay, well, if they're in North Korea,
they can get pretty much anywhere.
And I remember doing
That's a great advertisement.
Absolutely.
DHL is going to sponsor the podcast, so we can get in touch.
But I remember doing an address label for somewhere in rural Thailand. I think it was, or Vietnam. It might have been. And and you're thinking that I looked it up on the map, and it's just some tiny remote village. And sure enough, shipped off. But arrived fine.
Wow.
And it's in some far-flung places.
So apart from Kickstarter, was there any other route to markets that you had? Because any other sort of advertising channels? Because that's quite a remote location. You must have had quite a wide reach. Was that with Kickstarter alone?
That was with Kickstarter,
Wow.
Yeah, I moved on to Shopify after the Kickstarter, which was a brilliant platform.
Yeah.
Really recommend that.
Was that with Shopify, like your own website, or do Shopify, was that on a multi
it was,
platform?
No, it's my own website.
Right, okay.
That I
And you
was
still got
using.
the sort of reach. That's incredible.
Yeah. But also I did put it on Amazon in the UK, and that was a nightmare.
Okay, so PackPixels then made the move to local politics. What was why the move? I mean, it's quite a drastic change. Software engineer,
Yeah.
Kickstarter business owner, and now local politics.
Well, I still do IT consultancy work as well, but not dissimilar time to the PackPixels launch. I got involved with my local residents association to combat some inappropriate housing development in the local area. And by joining that, I ended up being the spokesperson who spoke at the National Inspector's review of all of this, where I was successful in throwing some big spanners in the works. And it was off the back of that the local independent group saw me speaking and came and spoke to me and said, have you ever thought about standing as a councillor for your ward? And I thought about it and thought, well, actually, all the stuff I'm doing with the local resident association, I really enjoy. So yeah, why not? Let's do that. And so in 2018, there was a by-election where I did all right. I got about 90% of the vote. So I got elected at a similar time to where the power balance shifted in the local authority, so that the independent group actually took over control. And I then joined the cabinet back in 2019 to be the executive lead member for growth, regeneration and local planning, which is what I've been doing there since, and been rather successful in bidding for funds from the government in the various sort of towns fund, levelling up fund, all of those funds. Been the most successful council in the UK. I've led the bids that have secured over £140 million for regeneration projects across Ashfield District.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good. Excellent. Well, Matt, I think that's brilliant. Thank you for your time. And thank you for joining us on the podcast.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers.